All right, Rabbi, by the end of the Maamar is hey. So we'll learn the last ice and then we'll review the Maamar. Well, yeah. So the whole Maamar is talking about the Vedas Abirurim, and he said before that the Vedas Abirurim draws on Chacham Stimbar, meaning to say that's the Pnimius of Chachma, which is Meir Gvura Da'atik, and is known that Gvura Da'atik is B'chinas Atzmos Atik. In contrast to the Rotzen, in contrast to the Rotzen, Mitzad the Rotzen, everything is equal. Any idea based on Chafetz. Mitzad the Pnimius of Alikus, which is generally speaking Tainug. Again, why is that the Pnimius of Alikus? Because Tainug is about the very the being, whereas Ratzin is I want something. Tainug is more expression of I am, meaning to say I want this because that's who I am. So the unit of Vedas Abirurim is rooted in the Tainug Atzmi of the Nisava Kadosh Baruch Hu. This is where I want to be. And this is the whole Ma'alev of Vedas Abirurim. And that was the chet of the Meraglim, which the Maamar doesn't focus on the chet part. Maamar focuses on the positive mission part, what could have been and what was Mitzad Yeshua and Kolev, this inyan of Vedas Abirurim. So now he's going to go back to, and that's what the whole Maamar explained, is the Maila of Vedas Abirurim is the Tachlis HaKavana. Tainug Gufa, that's the Etzem Pnimis HaTainug, that is beyond even the Tainug of the completion of Yisavos, because that's the stage. There is a Tainug in Vayar Alikim, that it's Tov Ma'od. It's called Ashos of Hinei Tov Ma'od, Taka Tov Ma'od, but it's all Hachana for the Avodah of the Lshamba, the Avodah of a Yid. Okay, so let's conclude. I say, Zeo Inyan Shlach Lcha Noshim V'Yasuras Eretz Canaan. This was the whole Shlichus and all the Diyukim here. The Diyukim, the Shilas were, number one, the association Dafka with Moishe Rabbeinu, Shlach Lcha Noshim, similar to the Milchama with Amalek that Moishe told Yeshua, B'char Londo Anoshim, choose for us people. What's the for us? She explains the Anshe Moishe. So why people of Moishe, Moshe's boys? Why is this required in this Shlichus Dafke? And then the three Pirushim in V'Yasuru. The one Pirush is the simple Pirush to spy out the land, Meraglim. The second Pirush to scout out the land, and the third Pirush, Meloshen Yisorim, to bring addition to the land. V'Yisrin Ba'oretz, V'Yisrin Eretz Makelhi. So having said all that we did, now we have answers to all of those Diyukim, and that is as follows. The Hinei Klol is like we said, Yisrael, because the whole thing, going into that Yisrael, it's all to engage the world and elevate it. V'hainu should be yosim b'midbar. Being in the midbar, they weren't so connected to Gashmis. Because also at Yisrael, when they went to Yisrael and Itanus, Yedura the Pasnakat. This is the Gemara explaining why Masechta Shabbos, in its illustration of the Lamates Malachas, the Gemara notes the strange order of the Malachas, and the Gemara answers because, or the order Bachlal, because the Tanda, the author, Sidura the Pas, is taking the order of how bread is made. Hence, Achedesh Vazereya, although he starts off first with the Tzias Shabbos, first with carrying, As the Gemara explains, one of the reasons is because it's a weakened malachas. If he wants to start with it, al pichsidus is because the whole unit of going out of Rishus HaYachid, Rishus HaRabim is the essence of Shabbos. The whole world is Rishus HaYachid. So first stating what Shabbos is, b'chlal, then he goes into the pratim of achedesh v'azireya, of plowing and planting. Why? Because that's all avodas haberurim. That's what we do during the week. We don't do on Shabbos. So taking bread from the ground, that's really symbolic of avodas haberurim, of elevating the sparks. It fell into the Gashmi Soila. As he goes on to say, this whole line of Sidura, the past, the order of making bread, Nakat, he took the Tana. This is the old Avodas HaBerurim. He said before, that bread is eaten by the dint of the sword. It's an Avodah to engage the world and extract and redeem the captive sparks. And through this, the neshama b'chlal will reach a higher level, the world and neshama. Even though overtly in a revealed sense, it's a yerida to be invested in dvarim gashmi, to be clothed and become mokim in the dafka yidezeh nasa yisrin yoyse. This is what causes the great advantage that summons forth the atzmis dekigilui yisrin eretz bakelhi. Ukenal sheina berurim umitzad b'chinas gvur is the atik. As you said before, that the true avodas haberurim can only come from what is the atik, shebechinas atzmus atik, meaning the essence, the nisave, because mitzad the rotzana of the Eibishter. In other words, very simply saying, from the very beginning, if we have this conversation, namely, the very outset, nothing, the Eibishter alone, and then all of a sudden, it's been reported that Hashem created. What does he want? Anything, because everything is equally in significance. So he wanted to create. What's the kavanah? Ma'aseh tzadikim, Ma'aseh rishoyim. Could be anything. It's only mitzad the atmos atanik nisava kadosh baruch Hu that he chose. He wants this and not that. So that's atmosdic quality that's carried through. What is the atik? Atmos atik. All pointing to the time like the nisave. The Zeng and Vayasuru. So now that's the three taichin in Vayasuru, which is the mission statement. Belosh and Vayiraglo, that they have to spy. Shazu inyan avodas haberurim. That's avodas haberurim. Now, why is it spying? Because a spy conceals his intent, and he looks like what? Like everybody else. That's the whole point. He shouldn't be noticed that he's a foreigner. So the neshama comes into the world, and the yid engages in dvarim gashmiyim. Looks like everybody else. He works hard to make a living, and God willing, he does it very well. Successful businessman, a doctor, whatever he is. But it's all a guise. The whole reason he's engaged there is to extract information, to find out what's going on, to penetrate deeply into the inner workings of the society, of the government, of the army, and extract the secrets. So that's the union of the Meragel, a spy that he extracts. We engage in the world, but it's not the world itself. It's not what he's after. It's not why he's here, and doesn't even define him. He's a foreigner, and the Neshama is down here in order to extract, and it's what's Ikdush. That's the union of Meraglim, that's the union of spying. It's the union of deception. That's the union of Yaakov getting dressed up in Esau's clothing, the Neshama in the Guf. It's deceptive, because most of his life is most of his day and most of his life is involved in the Siddur de Pas. He's just trying to put bread on the table. And you think that's his whole Metzius. It's not at all. All of this is in order only for one kavanah, and that is to elevate the Nitzvus Kedusha, to redeem it. So that's the first thing, of Meraglim. That's avodas haberurim. Showing ideas in Nasa Yisr Meloshin Yasur Meloshin Yisr, and that's the third type, that they should cause an increase. Showing This is the increase. This is the Gilead Tainuk. Till then was only Chinese Dike Tainuk, the Abish's presence and satisfaction with creation. It's a good world. I'm pleased. I'm pleased because a Yid will come along and redeem it, elevate it. So that's the Yisra, the real Tainuk that comes through Aveda. Now the connection to Moishe. And then he'll explain also in a moment the middle Taich Vyasuru as in a scout to see, as in sending ahead someone to see the terrain. That's not an union of spying. It's not deception. Adrab, it's Gilo, it's Oir. So see in a minute. Now, since Birurim come from the level of Chachma, the Chachma is Beriru. Chachma, that's a quote from the Zohar. So Bemis, the Alter says that it's not Stam Chachma, but it is Pnimis HaChachma. In general, it's thinking of Chachma, because Chachma brings clarity. The world is a confused place. So you have the Nekudas HaChachma, so that illuminates this is right and this is wrong. The other thing it says in Chassidus that Chachma is bittul. It's only through Avedis HaBittul that a person can be here in the world and not get caught up in it and not swallowed up by it, but be its master and elevate the sparks. That's both from clothing of Chachma, bittul, and bringing clarity. But the etzem, it's Chachma stimah, because at the end of the day, why is good good and why is bad bad? Not because of any moral value, any idea. Morality is only morality because they decided that this morality. Mitzad the Rotzen Eli, mitzad the Raseviv, mitzad the Giluyim Lamaila, and not the Atzmis, the Gvuras Evatik, or the Atzmis, the Genukoda that carries through the Kavanah Pnimius. It could be this way or that way. Again, Haman tried to exploit that. That's the end of the Geirol, the end of the gallows being Chamishim Amma. Everything's equal. What difference does anything make? But mitzad the Pnimius makes, because he chose, it makes all the difference. So I'm saying this too in Yonami. This Chachma Stam, but Chachma alone is not going to be. So Chachma clarifies what's right, what's wrong. It has the union of bittul, but what is the kavanah? Still cannot know, because even Chachma recognizes that mitzad bligvul, everything is equally significant, insignificant. So it's Chachma Stimah, it's the Pnimius of Chachma that draws on the Etzem that says he wants this and not that. And then the morality is born as a result. So therefore, this ought to explain why they have to be Anshi Moishe. L'chein shalach Moishe semralgim l'daitoi, Shlach Lcho l'daitcha. Meaning to say that for the success of the shlichus of the meraglim, it has to be connected l'daitcha to the union of Moshe Rabbeinu, this union of bittul that Moshe Rabbeinu's union is Chachma Stimah. The Maimon speaks the positive. There's no discussion on the negative, as if the mission was successful. Meaning it was with Yeshua's meraglim. So the meraglim will have to be connected to Moshe Lefi because Moshe b'chinas Chachma. Moshe is at level of Chachma. Chachma is berirer again, and clarity and so on. It happens dafke through Chachma, the bitl of Chachma. The Kavan Elyon is expressed in Chachma, etc. So we're still left with, so we've explained two pirushim in the word Vayasuru, Meraglim, and the Yisra, the advantage that happens to Avedis HaBerurim. Hamshachas HaTainug, Hamshachas Etzem Velikus. Now to explain the middle pirush, the second one, Vayasuru, that they should scout out and see, examine. So now we have the answer, which is said in the previous paragraph. In order to be this bitter from below to above, to be engaged in the world, not be swallowed, not be part of it, but then to ascend, it's a big risk, going down into the world and to elevate, and not to become like quicksand, sinkhole, black hole. So we need that empowerment. We need that koyach. There's got to be oir. There has to be oir. There cannot just be the atzmisdik avoid of engaging the world, but there has to be the oir, the inspiration, the light, the transcendence also. That's in the sin koyach for the birur. So the Jew has to disengage frequently from the world, even while he's in the world. Hence mincha, and before he goes into the world, before the day begins, the avodas hatefillah, the ikar avodas hatefillah, that's the empowerment. So in Israel, that's the oir. That's when he's in the world of kedusha. In Israel, pirish ve'asur meloshen tayar. A tayar means a scout, or it means a tourist. Shemara haderech, he shows the way. Giloi. Shegam inyin zeh kiblu min Moishe. This also they get from Moishe, this inspiration. The oir. Shavidas ha'yosef v'derech malamayla lamati. Is avodas malamayla lamati. Bechinas re'iyah. It explained in the Kotateri, he wanted all the Yidden to have that level as well, to give this re'iyah, this sight, this inspiration to every Yid. That's his avodah, Moshe's re'iyah. So therefore, mitzadzeh shamaragdim holchu l'daita shel Moshe. So this is the game plan, that the Shlach Lcho l'daitcha, that they're plugged in to these two inyonim. Number one, the bittul of Moishe Rabbeinu, the chachmas timba, they carry with them clearly the consciousness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and therefore they're going to engage the world, because that's the point. Don't shy away, get down there. That in order to be successful, they have the oir, the giluyim. They remember the Fabrengens, the oir, and therefore they could to show the path. Showing in Amshachim Lamayla Lamata, that's the Amshachim Lamayla Lamata. Tachlis, so Pirish Aleph, but the Tachlis is the first taich in the pasuk, the simple meaning of the pasuk. V'yasurim aloshin v'yiraglo, to spy out, to engage, and then implies this deception, etc. Showing in Avodas Berurah, that's the actual Avodah. Shaydei Zenasa Pirish Agimel, through which we come to the third Pirish v'yasurim aloshin lahaisir, to add Lifel Yisr into effect. In addition to Canal being in Yisr Eretz Bakel, that the advantage that is found in the Avodah of Eretz, Avodas Berurah Bakel, is in everything, implying all of Ishtal Shalos is elevated, and also implying Bakel, it's above and greater than any Gilui. Why? Because it's Amshach of the Etzem HaTaina. All right, let's make a quick overview of the Maimer. I want you to help me. Okay, so as we just said, so the question is, why is this Negeah? The three Purushim in V'yasura. The first question was, it should have said V'yaraglo. Just say that, call them Meraglim. So why V'yasura? So he brought the Purushim. He brought the Medrash Rabbah. To be Le'oseis Tayar B'chochma. It's interesting, because it's a pasuk. It's a pasuk in Kehelas. V'nasati es libi lidosh v'losor b'chochma. I set my heart to inquire and to see losor. That word losor, the Medrash Rabbah says, means to see B'chachma with chachma, in chachma with chachma. At the end of the mind, we understand what this means. They're seeing this chachma, giloi. And the third pirush, lahoisif, to add. So he began to focus on the third pirush, and that's the end of that bringing the pasuk from Kehelis v'Yisrael ba'oretz v'Yisrael eretz v'Yisrael eretz ba'koilhi. So that's the avodas haberurim, and that's implied in the word Yisrael because it invokes the pasuk Yisrael achachma nasichlos and oirim menachoshech, that the advantage of folly of chachma that comes from folly, and the advantage of light that comes from darkness. That's avodas haberurim. What does it mean, the advantage of chachma that comes from folly? Like the Gemara says, the person doesn't understand anything properly until he first stumbles in it. It's got to have problems, and in the problems, that's the folly. He's not getting it, but stafka through that, the true grasp, especially in the learning process. And likewise, the oyer coming from choshech. Pasuk by Shleim v'atirev chachmas Shleima v'chachmas kol b'nei kedem. Doesn't just mean that he was wiser than all of them, but this chachma came from them. The bir of b'nei kedem, of those of the east. So this is the bir of and the chachma refers to here also of Yisrael chachma nasichlus is the chachma of l'um hazeh. So by elevating the chachma of l'um hazeh, this pearls an Ilian chachma. Yeah. Some other quotes there relating the same meaning. Next, ois beis. So here was a whole beer. Remember, in avodas haberurim works. By understanding the way it works down here, Adam el el, you will understand the way avodas haberurim is l'mayla. So how does avodas haberurim work? It works the whole process of refining the food. That's the thing of avodas haberurim. It's extracting the nutrients. So how this happens is there's a whole aliyah in the food, and along the way the dross is expelled. So it starts in the stomach, and then from the heart, and then the moyach. I think he mentioned the liver also somewhere, and then the moyach, and that causes the life force to remain, the soul to remain in the body. So likewise, avodah ruchnis of avodas haberurim, which beikar is avodas hatfila. So tefillah we said at the end of the maamar, I was noting, thinking of oyer, it's both. There's the oyer of tefillah, the inspiration of tefillah that has to start the day, and it's also specifically every day you're elevating the sparks of the previous day, and Shabbos tefillah elevates the sparks of the whole week. So there's two components there. Meaning to say that even in the oyer of tefillah, it's not a disconnect from the world, it's a milchama with himself, machshava, etc. Avas Hashem b'shnei yitzirecha, even the nefesh bahamis. So that's an inspirational milchama that primes him for his milchama out there in the world. The bread is eaten by the sword, so that's the milchama of davening. Then he brought the pasuk achalti. Remember the beautiful pasuk achalti yari im dvoshim. So this is the meaning. I ate. Remember, she says in her great love that she ate the cane with the sugar, with the honey. So what's this Indian, right? So the yari is of the malachim, dvashi is of the neshamas. The forest, the trees, this is the malachim. So this is the isboninus, the beginning of Birchas Krishma, the bitl of the malachim. So, and the serafim. So this prays the nefesh bahamis, even though the nefesh bahamis is what? He's like a commoner. who comes to the palace and doesn't really understand what's going on. But what he doesn't know these people are. But he understands, although who has no grasp in the king, certainly. But he sees the people of great stature, and they're all bottle, mishtachavim to the king. There's pales in him a bittel. So this is what the being misbeinen, and how these lofty celestial creations and complete bittel telikos srafim consumed, and they found him. So this pales a bittel, even though he has no himself no grasp in the greatness of the Melech. And moreover, he added, it's also misbeinen that where does my nefesh habahamis come from? This bittul is not foreign to me, because the nefesh habahamis comes from mishmarei efanim, from the residual of the malachim. So, not asking myself to be something I'm not. Even my nefesh habahamis, its source has this natural bittul. So this is how he's mavar the nefesh habahamis. This is called eating, because he's causing the nefesh habahamis to be consumed by alikus, a bittul and nefesh habahamis. That's the avodah of what achalti yari, together with dvashi, with the honey itself. That's the sweetness. That's the bittul of the nefesh halikis. That the nefesh halikis's bittul isn't iskafi and muchama. On the contrary, it's natural, and he understands it, and is misanig. So the nefesh halikis explains in nefesh habahamis the ilah velikus, the sweetness. So this causes the sweetness also, the gishmak that even nefesh habahamis will have in the likus. But before that, he said, the pasuk says, "Arisi meiri," I gathered my myrrh. Meiri is meloshim merirus. This is the avodah before the davening. That einayim dim lispalal b'tech keved rosh. A person shouldn't begin to daven only out of keved rosh, literally a heavy head, a bowed head, a humbled head. Now she says it means achna v'shiflus. Achna means to bend, to be subjugated in shiflus, lowliness, and that's the izboniness in his matzav, and that pearls that all the negative aspects removes them. Basically, avodas hatshuva. He davens with a humbled heart. And that's the achana to davening. But then the davening itself is achalti yarim devashi. It's all about the gishmak and tainug. Doesn't remain with the merirus. It's a stepping stone. So it comes out that the whole avodas hatefillah is like eating birur. That the negative is rejected, and the mufcha, the choice, ascends level after level. So likewise, davening, the pseilis, he says the negative things which are rejected at the beginning of davening, that's the kavod rosh. Pasha b'gashmis, you have to go to the bathroom before you daven. So too, before we daven, we have to acknowledge and denounce and reject in humility our failures. So, yeah. And now he's ready to daven. And then mufcha nichla, because he's honest. He's coming honestly. How else could he daven? And then can start the avodas hatefillah. Next paragraph. So in the same way that is, you following me the chazara? Yeah. And like this by a person. So likewise, it is in the ilamus that the 6 days of the week is yedida. The person is engaged in the world that's a mixture of good and bad, but then by chulosh Shabbos, by chulosh shemayim v'aretz v'chol tzvam, heaven and earth are all incorporated by chulu kiloyin. They're all drawn and incorporated in Eilam Atzilus. And that's Friday night. We say, therefore, we say in the capital, the Taka capital, Tzadik Vav. Haval Hashem, prepare unto God. We say 3 times. That's the Aliyah. They've been prepared. They've been elevated. Haval, they're in ready. Actually, better would have been readiness for Hashem. Being readiness for Hashem, that's the 3 times, because that's the Gimel elements of Biyah that a Yidin has elevated the sparks through his Avodah in the 6 days of the week. And at the end, Ishtachval Hashem in the same capital, B'Hadras Kodesh, prostrate in glorious splendor. That's the bittul and the aliyah, bittul b'metzias of Shabbos and Eilam Atzilus. The way it is in Eilam, that's beyond Atzilus, the same is also true of Pratis and Atzilus. Namely Malchus, which is the creative word of Hashem, so the 6 days descends to Biyah. Ragleho Yerdis Moves, her feet descend to death, referring to Malchus, death meaning, as you said before, the Nitzutzik Dusha that falls into the world. Remember, Reish Peches Mes, Ruchelakim Rachefes. That's all Kadeh B'Mivara Berurim. And that's implied in the Eishes Chayil, which we say Friday night in praise of the Isha of Malchus. That she gets up during the night and she prepares food for her household. The night is the 6 days of the week, is Gashmi, this dark world. And she prepares food, that's in Nitzutzik Dusha, that she elevates. And mind you, the word terefa means a torn, means snatched. Because in Nitzutzik Dusha, that's snatched from the world. He's working like everybody else, and then in the end, it's all for what? Tzedakah, to have koich to daven, to do a mitzvah. The last second is, hey, we thought you were part of this. Oh, you have another agenda. It's snatched. So that's Malchus. Vatitin Ternef LeBesa. Besa being Atzilus and higher even. That then Tzutzik Dusha then are brought there, elevated, the whole Ishtalshalis is transformed. Yisen Eretz Bakelhi. And then Shabbos is the Aliyah in, that's what in Teref LeBesa, that's the Avodah of the 6 days of the week, which we're praising Friday night. And then the Shabbos experience itself is the Aliyah in Atzilus, in Menucha, and experience of the Tainug, as we learned at length in the previous Maimon. We'll continue the Chazorah tomorrow.